Can you introduce yourself?
My name is Jade Cargill. I'm a student at RMIT studying sculpture currently.
Sculpture wasn't originally your main medium. How's this shift in medium impacted your work process?
Yeah. So originally I've been historically like a painter or a drawer. Usually that's my main sort of medium we're looking at, and I kind of accidentally stumbled into sculpture. I wasn't supposed to do it, but gave it a shot anyway, and it's a way more expansive practice than drawing or painting. Well, everything sort of becomes your medium or material when you're doing sculpture, in a sense, because you got to think about the way things interact in space, a whole other dimensions added so it's completely changed the way I think about creating a work and expressing things. Yeah, the process is just as important, so I've really been focusing on the way in which I do create works and what that sort of alludes or relates to.
What's your thought process for this?
I was looking at ideas of baggage, and as it's a bag and it's a vessel for carrying stuff, and the process of making this sort of stuff for me is sort of in a similar way, like how you tackle a problem itself. You take it bit by bit. What I was examining was sort of, instead of anything to do with the bag, I was more looking at my process for myself. And usually I work very gesturally, and so for that work, I intentionally took my time cutting off bits and pieces, even if it made me feel uncomfortable, sort of in a sense. It's sort of a record of me really analysing and changing the way in which I create works.
It's quite a personal process.
Totally, and it's very much related to my understanding of my surrounding world and me trying to sort of nut out what my world is and how the world interacts around me. Yeah, I'm trying to reference more so concepts, ideas, or sort of like the relating components of art as the body of work. Yeah, so I've been working on a few projects, or at least put them in play. So I've been talking to a lot of people sort of around me. I know I have those spaces that I can use in terms of exhibiting works in the future, but at the moment it's sort of in a conceptual phase in which I'm just trying to learn.
Personally, I think the most successful aspect of this project was the depth of the discussion and the actual subject matter of the conversation. I ended up spending quite a bit of time at the studio with my interviewee Jade. In doing so, I learned a lot about his practice and current thought processes, and I also got great insight into the concepts surrounding his work. I ended up getting a good understanding of what Jade was struggling with in his practice, including the conceptualization of his works at the moment.
It's more of like a self-to-self artwork of me learning to become a bit less grand gestures.
Although I wasn't able to fit everything into the final video, we did spend a lot of time discussing his work, and it definitely had an impact on the final interview. In terms of problematic aspects, we did run into a few issues, as it was the end of the semester and we were both very busy with assignments, which made it quite difficult to find time to shoot the interview. But in terms of the final video, some of the fluidity and the rhythm of the editing was a bit off. I did have some trouble in the editing. Some of Jade's responses were very extensive and covered a lot of ground, which was great, but it did make it difficult to fit everything into a concise 2-minute video. I also realised now post-production that some of the framing was a bit off. I had Jade to the left of the frame, which was okay, and then we had his brushes in the background, which was good in terms of sort of showing the setting of the interview. But because of where I was positioned during the interview, he was also looking towards the left side of the frame, sort of looking directly out of the frame, which is something I realised post-production and something I definitely look out for in the future. One key learning discovery I made has to be the importance of the interviewer/director's role in not only conducting the interview but also conducting thorough research. Of course, running preliminaries was a very crucial part of this process. Another important aspect was also the actual time spent with my interviewee in the studio. I got great insight into his thought process and practice, all whilst taking notes and shooting B-roll. As stated by Michael Rabiger in Conducting and Shooting Interviews, a documentary is the sum of relationships as forged by the crew and the participants. As I was both the director and the researcher, and I knew my interviewee quite well, as stated by Michael Rabiger, this kind of puts the interviewee at ease, but it also means I'm missing out on a potentially fresh and spontaneous interview. During the production process of this interview, I learnt about the importance of scheduling and proper organisation. I made sure to find time to shoot the interview which fit both mine and Jade's schedule, and which was well ahead of the due date in case we ran into any issues. And I'm glad I did, because we did have to cancel a couple of times, and I also lost the footage of the original interview. It even planned a backup date in case anything went wrong. This type of well-planned organisation has never been something that's come naturally to me or that I'm good at. It's definitely not my strong point, but it's something I strive to get better at, and it's an aspect which I think is a core skill of a media practitioner.